Hey guys, I want to welcome you to the weekly Wednesday for the Financial Freedom newsletter, where every week, every Wednesday, we delve into something inspirational, motivational, something excerpt taken from the Financial Freedom weekly newsletter. Wherever you are, if you're listening on Spotify, on iTunes, Google, be sure to click the like, subscribe, share, comment. And without ado, let's get into the show. Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. I'm really excited about today's guest, Agi Keramidas from Greece. And today we're actually going to talk about a lot of things: standing out, not fitting in, turning from a shy introvert into a confident knowledge broker, coach, author, and podcast host. So I'm really excited about Agi's story, and welcome to the show. Welcome.
Christopher, thank you very much. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, I know we connected through the Podmatch community, and tell people about your story and what you do, and it's going to be a great discussion.
Sure. I will try to condense it as much as I can. So as you said, I am Greek originally. However, I lived in the UK. When I was about in my mid-30s, I felt a real calling to change my life and move to the UK. So that was something I did. I am a dentist by profession. I have practiced dentistry for over 20 years now. However, the last maybe 5 years or so, I have diminished my days of working in dentistry, because I realized, and we can go to that aspect of my story if you want. I realized at some point that I was really not passionate about dentistry. It took me a long time to realize it, but when I realized that, and that actually happened just after I completed my master's degree in 2015. So I found myself, rather than being pumped up and ready to do sophisticated dentistry and very advanced stuff that I had learned, instead of that, I found myself confused, unmotivated, unfulfilled, and that led me to start a journey of self-exploration, personal development, and then one thing led to the other, and I realized that personal development is my real passion and not dentistry. So I have kind of flipped the scales over the years and doing less dentistry and more teaching, coaching. Finished my first book very recently, and I also have a podcast like you, Personal Development Mastery, which I'm very passionate about, and I love doing it. So in a nutshell, that is the story. Happy to go to wherever direction you think is more relevant to your audience.
It's interesting. I think as healthcare as a profession is very stressful, and it's a very industry profession. So and you talked about personal develop mastery, and then taking a leap of faith and trusting your intuition. I did this in September of 2008, right after Lehman Brothers collapsed. I turned in my keys, badge, and pager to my program, and I wanted to become an entrepreneur. So I'm really excited that people actually embrace this concept.
I think it's important, and especially if one finds themselves unfulfilled and just doing, going through the motions and living day in, day out without feeling like they're going somewhere, then I think it is really important to take a step back and look at what's going on, and not, take whatever has happened in their life up to that point for granted, or let that not dictate what they can do with the rest of their life. And I see that many times with people I work with or people I interview on my podcast and have discussed their story, but that is quite common. People, having a certain kind of life, and at some point realizing that this was never for them, and taking a big pivot. Sometimes it does involve a leap of faith, many times actually, and maybe that is necessary, that leap of faith. It's not always an easy transition. There are challenges to it, and maybe that is one reason why many people don't do that, don't take that leap of faith, because of fear of what if, this and that. But I think it's important for anyone listening who finds themselves in that situation that, you know what, things could be better, fulfilled. That's the word I like to use in this particular. I'm not fulfilled with how my life is. It's important, to realize that it's not written in stone, no matter what others might say. You can always change direction to your life if you want to.
Yeah, I love that. And we talk, and I think one thing I was talking with another podcast guest was, this idea that COVID just basically paved the way for people to start pursuing their dreams and acting fearless and trusting their intuition and taking leap of faith. And then one thing is, you discovered your calling. So what's interesting is, we'll talk about Knowledge Broker a little bit, but you've written books and you have a podcast. So how did you discover your calling through self-mastery?
That's a great question. The discovering that calling took, it started with experimentation or curiosity, if you want. I had no idea when I started back in 2016, when I started reading some books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad was one of the books that really changed my mindset, or How to Win Friends and Influence People. I found those things fascinating, but I had no idea at that time that this would be a direction that I would be so much drawn to them. So I think the answer to your question is, for me personally, it was via following my curiosity. And, at some point, my curiosity led me to launch a podcast. I had no idea about the podcast at that time. And, I just started, and then I realized the more, and I think that's what's important when you follow a calling, your curiosity, it's probably the only way to determine if that thing is for you or not. Because if it's not, you will try it a little bit and say, that's not for me. But if it is, you will carry on. Whereas if you just are standing on the sidelines and not even giving it a try, then you will never know, will you?
Yeah. It's interesting. And the people that stand on the sidelines are usually the trolls and the haters and the naysayers, because they've never done it, so they just kind of randomly throw in their lack of expertise and their 2 cents, whatever. This is interesting. So, and then when you find your purpose, it sounds like you find your purpose through kind of you use your intuition and you have some certain skills. And what is this? You call yourself a knowledge broker, and this is really interesting because there's there used to be stockbrokers, real estate brokers, there's salesmen, all these. What is a knowledge broker?
A knowledge broker, of course, it is. We live in an era that information is abundant. It's overwhelming, actually. On the internet, you can find pretty much everything. The majority of the human knowledge is there. The problem with all that is that it's very difficult, if not impossible, do something with all that information. Back in the days, you would pick up a couple of books, or you would go to the library and get some books on a topic. So you would really have a more narrow field of focus and study. Nowadays, you can literally, on your fingertips or on your phone, you can find out anything you want in terms of information. Despite abundance of information, there is a phrase that Tony Robbins uses, that we are drowning in information, but we're starving for wisdom. And I think that for me is what the knowledge broker like me does, converting or distilling, if you want, that information into wisdom, into insights, into things that one can take and implement and actually make an improvement in their life. So it's not, just information. it is more, well, transformation is the word that comes to mind. It's really doing something, the information, by distilling it, narrowing down and presenting it in a way that, we're so busy nowadays. The time is the most valuable commodity. And if I tell you, what could you do with your morning routine, for example, and you search online or you find books, you will find thousands, millions of articles and research. But who has the time to go through all that? So job or mission, if you want, as a knowledge broker, is to present that. Of course, from my own point of view, I can't claim that, I have the answers for everything. I have distilled the universal knowledge into a book or a topic, but through my own perspective, the people who align with me and with my message, they can really distill version of knowledge. I like the word wisdom in this case because it is wisdom, and in particular actionable wisdom, because knowledge or information without implementation is pretty much useless. I mean, you can have all the knowledge in the world. If you don't do anything with that knowledge, there is no point. It just takes up space inside your head. So I hope that answered your question about the knowledge broker, the way I see it anyway.
Yeah, because I remember those days I had to get in my car, drive to the library. It took a lot of time and effort. Now you can just go on the Amazon or Kindle, just download a book or Audible, really easy right there and then. But and also the digital age, basically when the internet is one of the greatest inventions because it basically democratized information access. So, before that you had all the gatekeepers, but now it's like we're, what you said, drowning in information. So now we have to apply it and transform ourselves. And now there's knowledge brokers that have different skill sets like lifestyle, diet, fitness, relationships, finance, career, and they help their community and their audience. So, and everything's in this world, everything is being digitized. So now you don't have to be a broker of real estate or physical things. You're a broker of information and knowledge and experience and wisdom, which is really interesting. I'm curious because AI is now big, and so how do you picture yourself as a knowledge broker in this age of AI?
That's a great question. Right now, it's a little bit of uncharted territory, isn't it? I mean, the way things are going, and they're going with an exponential growth and speed. It's, I think, in 5 years from now, or even less, we will be living in a completely different world that we are living now because of AI to some extent, because it changes all the aspects of our life. I don't have a ready answer for your question. What comes to my mind when you say that is that no matter how much you can program an artificial intelligence or a model that can, let's say, do the same thing or distill the knowledge according to your desires or to your needs, I think the actual human element, it is something that, well, it can never be replaced by a machine, no matter. I can't imagine that happening. I suppose I would still have a more personal touch than a robot or a machine that you say, okay, filter down the knowledge on X subject based on my need and give me, a 2-page summary of it. As I said, I don't have a ready answer, and it's a great question, and we're headed into a new era, and we'll see what happens to that.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's what you were saying. It's kind of like you have to it's like this combination, because like with ChatGPT, I'm able to 6x my output, and but again, it can't replace the human touch to it. So it's like kind of like this symbiosis where you have to leverage AI and the human element. It's gonna be really interesting, and it's like what you talked about. It's exponentially faster and faster, and 5 years, 7 years, depends on the regulatory front. And then now talk about podcasts. So power podcasts, and what have you gained by having your own podcast? Have you been and you've been able to give your listeners actionable tools Talk about that.
Sure. Well, what have I gained from the podcast that I could be speaking for a long time about that? I will say a few things that come to mind. First of all, it was an outlet for self-expression and actually being able to articulate some thoughts and ideas that I didn't even know that I had at some time. It just happened, but because I had this channel of communication or sharing. So self-expression is the first thing that comes to mind. And with that also comes the improved communication skills, improved not only speaking but also listening and understanding all this what communication involves. I had the opportunity to connect some some remarkable people from around the world, which I would never have the opportunity to do so in my town or in my dental practice. I mean, it would be very unlikely. I mean, not impossible, but extremely unlikely. So I connected with people. With some of them, we had business opportunities. With others, we became close friends. So that's something that the connection and the expanding my network was another benefit, shall we say, that I experienced from having a podcast. I mean, the list goes on and on. It also became, well, to bring it to what we were saying about the actionable and the book, my book was created as a direct result from my podcast. So via my conversations with these remarkable people, I managed to distill that as a knowledge broker, as we were saying, and created, I have it actually here too, insights for life and actionable insights for life. And that actually contains the majority of the content in there came directly from my podcast. It wouldn't have happened otherwise. So as I said, the list of benefits are endless. Maybe you can add, being a podcaster yourself, you can add another benefit that I maybe forgot to mention now. Maybe for you, what was it?
Yeah, really interesting. How can people contact you, follow you? Looks like you have a really popular podcast. Reach out to you, etc.
Thank you. The podcast is called Personal Development Mastery. You can find it wherever you listen to your podcasts from. Well, my website is agikeramidas.com. You can find me there and pretty much on all socials. If you don't mind, I would like to offer to your audience, Christopher, a gift, and that is my book, a free digital copy of my book. So if you go to Agi 88, and I'm sure that Christopher will put that in the show notes somewhere, you can download the book and you can get actionable, practical insights on personal development, not theoretical concepts, but things that you can actually implement and create a habit out of them and hopefully improve your life. Even if you find one out of the 88 that you connect with and resonate with, then my mission is fulfilled.
Yeah.
That's my gift to you.
Yeah, really great. And thank all the listeners for tuning in. Really interesting insight of Agi's resources will be in the links and show notes, and really great discussion on faith, intuition, knowledge broker, AI, and podcasting. So with that, thanks so much for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Christopher.
I hope you really enjoyed that wonderful, inspirational, motivational piece. Again, wherever you are listening, if you liked it, be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. We're on everywhere: Spotify, iTunes, Google, Amazon, Audible. And without much ado, be sure to thank this show's sponsors, and we'll see you next week.